again to an update from my PhD life. It's been 4 months since my last video blog, and a couple of things have happened since then. So I wrote 2 conference papers, of which both got accepted, so yay! But the most important thing that happened is that I traveled to the other side of the globe for my external research stay. So I've been here in Korea now since a month at the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, the KAIST, in Seoul, and I'm here to conduct a study on misunderstandings in risk management in intercultural teams. So how do they communicate about risks, what could go wrong there? And if you think about it, you can't get more different in terms of communication than Korea and Northern Europe. So think of hierarchy, think of the politeness norm, and also think of the highly contextual communication that is done here in Korea. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm conducting interviews with practitioners to understand their typical misunderstandings and, more importantly, what we can actually do to resolve them to make risk communication in intercultural teams more efficient and with less misunderstandings. So, well, I've been here now for a month, and you might think that Korea is pretty exotic, but what actually I found out is that it's rather me that is the exotic specimen here. So, why is that? Well, for once I'm doing qualitative work, I'm doing interviews, and this is kind of strangely odd to Koreans who still prefer robust science to be quantitative. So, especially to the older academics here, I always have a little bit to defend why I'm doing actually qualitative work. Secondly, as a PhD from Denmark, I take a lot of responsibility for the design and the execution of my research, which is quite different from many of my PhD colleagues here from Korea, who are more in the hierarchy and take more the tasks and the research projects from the professors. So here I'm taking more freedom than they would. And thirdly, I just don't follow the crazy work hours, so you might have heard the cliches of the Koreans staying in the office until 10, 11, midnight. They do that, I don't. But to put things into perspective for my Korean, especially student colleagues, it's not so much of a big deal to play a couple of hours of an online game during work hours, to take a nap in your office chair, or to go out for very long lunch breaks. So that puts the whole crazy hour things in perspective, I think. But well, that's not the only thing where Denmark and Korea is quite different. So I mean, I came here quite culturally prepared, as it's part of my research topic. So I'm aware of many of the things, and although I'm sure I violate this Korean politeness norms and other societal norms like 100 times a day, at least I am somewhat aware of them, and so this preparation helped me in some way that those, from the Danish perspective, sometimes weird interaction are more academically interesting to me than irritating. And what I heard from other foreign researchers, this encounters actually can become very irritating over times. So what are those things that you should think about when you come to Korea that might seem alien, especially when you come from a northern country? Well, the first thing is hierarchy. So again, this is not a cliche, but it's a matter of fact, and you better play by the rules to make things work and not to irritate people. And actually I also heard stories that Koreans amongst themselves can get highly confused when the hierarchy is not clear-cut, and that can create a lot of problems. So following the hierarchy is just the thing that makes things work, and if you don't know how the hierarchy is set, that actually creates confusion and problems. Another thing that was quite surprising, especially in the scientific environment I'm here, is that open discussions and even questions are considered impolite, which I feel makes scientific discussion a little bit hard. But then again, the Korean workaround is that you take those kind of discussions, this kind of questions, to the face-to-face level. So if you're in a group and people don't oppose it, that doesn't mean anything. So the German "Wer schweigt, stimmt zu," that just doesn't apply to Korea. So what I've learned here is just saying nothing doesn't mean anything at all. Well, a third thing that was quite jumping to me is that excelling and competing is of extremely high importance. And I was actually surprised by some encounters, some quite informal encounters, where I then felt, well, actually they're just looking for the competitive edge that they could get out of it. Again, not everyone, but it's something that just regularly comes up. And I'm sure that this mindset is somewhat responsible for this rocketing economic success that Korea had over the past decades. But it sometimes also leads to an unwillingness to really cooperate and even to some sort of secrecy regarding one's own work or research. Again, something that's kind of weird in science, but yeah, that's Korean way of doing things. So yeah, so if you think of going to Korea for research or even doing a full program, just bear in mind that things are done very, very, very differently here, and that you have to learn to cope with them, especially if you're coming, for instance, from a northern European country, which is very different in the way how things are organized. Yet the country is seriously amazing. It has overwhelming and mind-blowing cities full of color and things to do and amazing amounts of traffic that still work, which is very surprising for me. And outside the cities it has beautiful landscapes, great for hiking, awesome mountains. The food, as you might expect, is sometimes weird, but really tasty and nice. And people are overall really friendly and helpful, so I feel very welcomed and also extremely safe here, which, well, I expected because I read it before, but still, I think it's the safest place I've ever been to. So anyway, for me it has been a very exciting experience. I really love digging into this culture, which is in so many regards completely alien from my prior experiences. But I love also to see the cracks that especially the younger people express when it comes to questioning the old ways. So I think Korea is a country where, cultural-wise, a lot will happen over the next decades. Well, anyway, so much for my little update. I speak to you again in summer, then from the other side of the world again. So take care and see you in a couple of months. Bye-bye.